Hello, 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 you guys. Hi, welcome to the Wealthy Trustee webinar. So tonight I am going to be teaching you guys how to actually set up a trust. So I'm super excited about that. That's my favorite topic to talk about. So I don't want to be the only person on camera. So if you guys could turn on your cameras, that would be lovely. I see we have Anitra, we have DJ, we have Earl. Hey, Earl. We have Future's phone. We have Jen, Kimber, Mark, Kristen, Nisi, Omar, Quentin, Stephanie, Allison. So if you guys could come on camera, I would really appreciate that. So tonight we are going to be talking about trust. So I have a short and sweet presentation for you guys, teaching you guys how to actually create a trust, right? There's a couple of steps that you want to take. And there's some information that you want to know before you actually set up a trust, okay? So a little bit about me. My name is Christina Yvette. I am a trust strategist. So I help people create their trust, right? I have actually been a trustee since 2015. And the way that I became a trustee was through real estate, you guys. So I was actually a registered nurse, and I was working 5 days a week, 12-hour shifts. And so I was actually working paycheck to paycheck, and I was tired of being like, being in that situation, right? Not being financially free, not having time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. So at that time, I had a 1-year-old son, and I was literally spending more time with my coworker than I was with my son. And that was eating me alive. And so I said to myself, like, one, I gave myself 10 years to be in the nursing career. So I said, in 10 years, I got to be out. So I got to create a business, right? What is going to be my second stream of income, because I'm only making $21 an hour and it's not cutting it. So I went to a seminar where they started teaching people how to flip houses. And so in that seminar, it was a 3-day seminar, like one of them big conferences that you go to. And at that seminar, I signed up for mentorship. So within 6 months of my mentorship, I flipped my first house, or I actually bought the house, right? So I bought the house, and my mentor told me that I needed to put that house in a trust. Why? Because it was a liability, right? It was a liability if I would have kept it in my personal name, or even if I would have kept it in my LLC, right? Because anybody could have gotten injured on the job, the contractors, the plumber, right? The carpenter, anyone. And if they would have gotten injured, they would have sued me. And if I would have lost that lawsuit, they could have taken the house away. So I didn't want to put myself in that position. So I put that property in a trust, and I have been operating as a trustee ever since, right? So that's how I learned about trust, like just being, being and operating as a trustee and putting all of my properties into a trust and conducting all of my business within trust, right? So now what I'm going to do is I am going to teach you guys all that I know in 45 minutes. So I can't go over everything, but I'm just going to keep it short and sweet, okay? So let me pull up this presentation here. So we'll go through this, and then after this short and sweet presentation, then I'll open up the floor for questions, okay? So what is a trust entity? A lot of us, we hear the term trust, right? And some of us, we know what it is, and some of us, we don't know what it is, right? We usually associate trust with the term trust fund baby, right? And so what you need to know is that a trust is an entity. So you are an entity. A company is an entity. A trust is an entity, okay? So that's first and foremost, okay? The second thing that you need to know is that a trust is a contract, okay? So that's very different from an LLC or a corporation. So because it's a contract, there's several different parties that's involved in this contract, which we'll go over, okay? So it's important for you to know the parties involved and the different parts of the contract. So what are some of the parts? Well, The first part that you'll find is the declaration, you guys, okay? So that is where you're declaring what it is and what it is not. So you're declaring that it's a private contract and that it's a private entity. And then you're declaring that it is not a partnership, a corporation, or an LLC. All right. And then the second part of the contract is the indenture. In the indenture, that is where you're putting the do's and the don'ts, the restrictions, and how you actually want the trust to be operated. We call those provisions. So those are different sections and articles within your trust that you put there in order to show the trustees how you want the trust to be operated, and to also show the beneficiaries what their restrictions are within the trust, okay? So that is the different parts of the contract. So now let's talk about the different parties involved in the contract. So the first party you have is the grantor. The grantor is the creator of the trust, okay? So that's the person who's actually establishing the trust. So they're creating this contract, and it's going to be for the benefit of somebody else. So who is that other person? Well, it's the beneficiary. So the beneficiary is the inheritor of the trust, right? So that is the person who is actually going to be receiving the assets once the trust is done. Okay, so once it is dissolved, then those assets are going to go to the beneficiary, okay? So you have to actually determine how long you want the trust to be in operation for. So you can have that trust in operation for, I would say a minimum of, 1 year, right? But that's not long enough to really operate a trust, right? To a maximum of 100 years. So once that 100-year mark hits, you're going to have to renew the trust, okay? So once you renew the trust, then at that point in time, it's going to be renewed for the original term. So if the original term is 100 years, now you're going to be operating that trust. So now it's going to be in existence for 200 years, okay? All right, so now the next party is the trustee, you guys. The trustee is the controller of the trust. So that is the individual who is going to be operating the trust on a day-to-day basis and who has all of the control of those assets that you're putting inside of the trust. So they are what we call the fiduciary, okay? And so they are operating the trust for whatever is the best interest of the trust for the beneficiaries, okay? So they're growing the estate for the beneficiaries. So there's different types of trust. There's hundreds of types of trust. That's one thing that you need to know. So with these hundreds of different types of trust, all of them fall within certain categories. So I'm going to briefly go through those categories. So first, you have express versus implied. Express means that it's written, it's in black and white, and it's in a contract style. Implied means that it's oral, right? So it's just me and you having a verbal agreement, okay? The second one is simple versus complex. With a simple trust, it's shorter in nature and distributions are required. With a complex trust, it's longer in nature and distributions are not required. Okay, so that's a good thing. Next, you have discretionary versus non-discretionary. So with a discretionary trust, the trustee is able to do anything that they deem necessary that is not included inside the trust. So for example, if we're talking about crypto, right? We didn't put the verbiage crypto inside of our trust, right? But the trustee has the discretionary power to be able to make decisions regarding crypto. And then on the contrary, you have non-discretionary, meaning that the trustee has restrictions. So if it doesn't say in the trust, you can't do it, okay? Next, you have statutory versus non-statutory. So with the statutory trust, that means that they have the state codes and statutes inside of the trust, okay? So with the state codes and statutes, that also means that one, a statutory trust usually is registered with the state, so it's public, and then it's only restricted to be used in that state. Then you have non-statutory. With a non-statutory trust, is not restricted to the state where it was established, so you can use it in the whole nation. And then it doesn't have the state statutes and codes, so the state is not going to be able to regulate your trust. And then it's not registered with the state, so it means that it's private and it's private and obscured. Okay. So next you have revocable versus irrevocable. So every single trust falls within those two categories. With a revocable trust, that means that the grantor, which is the creator of the trust, they have what we call revocability. So that means that if they were to put property into the trust, they could revoke it and take it out. If they were to establish the trust, they can terminate it whenever they want. If they were to appoint a trustee or a beneficiary, they could remove those people whenever they want. And they can make any changes to the trust, you know, while they're living. Okay. So because the grantor is able to make all of these changes, it is because of that flexibility, your assets are not fully protected, right? Because if the grantor has any creditors, those creditors can come after the revocable trust because it can be altered. Okay. So with that type of trust, you just have to keep that in mind. One thing is, with a revocable trust, once the grantor passes away, they're no longer able to make changes. So that trust is converted to irrevocable. Okay. So now, on the contrary, we have irrevocable. With an irrevocable trust, right, the grantor cannot make any changes or amendments to the trust. They cannot remove the trustees or beneficiaries. They cannot take assets out of the trust. If they put assets into the trust, those assets would then have to be sold to them. And if they wanted to terminate the trust, they couldn't, right? So the grantor has no power, no control, no beneficial interest. All of that power and control is with the trustee. So because the grantor, the person who created it, can't make any of these changes, what happens is that the creditors that are after the grantor or the trustee cannot come after that type of trust because it's irrevocable. Okay, which then puts it in a position to where it's your assets are protected, right? And if that type of trust was to end up in litigation, what happened is the actual the judge would decide not to pierce through that trust, right? But the judge could pierce through a revocable trust, right? And so if the judge pierces through a revocable trust, what happens is they force you to produce the trust in court. So if they force you to produce it in court, that means that now it becomes a part of the public record. So you had this private entity that was sued, you lost the lawsuit, they forced you to produce it in court because it was revocable. And so now that means that everyone is going to know the net worth, the beneficiaries, the trustee, and all of the contents in the trust. So that's with revocable. With irrevocable, that most likely will not happen because of the type of trust that it is. Okay. So if you want what we call a bulletproof trust, then you want to get a irrevocable trust. Okay. So now let's talk about the different parties involved when we are talking about trust. Okay. So let's see here. All right. So how to actually create the trust, right? So we spoke about the different parties involved, and we spoke about the different types of trust. So now how do we actually create the trust? What are the steps, right? So step one is you need to determine the type of trust that you want. I just gave you a list of different categories, right? So what I recommend is that you get one, an express trust. So you want it in writing. Two, you want a discretionary trust so that you can make, you can have those type of powers and make those type of decisions. Three, you want a non-statutory trust so that you can use it in the whole nation and you're not restricted to one state or regulation. And then you want an irrevocable trust so that you have full asset protection in the event that somebody tries to sue that type of trust. Okay, so that's the type of trust that I recommend. But you have different types of trust, like I said. So do your due diligence, do your research, figure out what's the best trust for you, your family, your business, okay? Number two is you want to, once you have established that you want to create, a trust, right? You need to name that entity, right? And so when you are naming the entity, there's two things that you need to know. The first is that you do not want to name the trust after yourself, okay? So if your name is Sally Sue, you do not want to name the trust Sally Sue. Why? Because the entire point of you actually creating a trust is for privacy. So it doesn't make sense for you to actually name the trust after yourself. I see it all the time where they have their first and last name, Sally Sue Living Trust. It's like, how are you going to protect yourself if you're letting the entire world know that you're associated with that trust, right? So if they want to sue you, then they're going to come after the trust. So when it comes to naming your trust, right, you want to choose different names that are not associated with you. You could definitely use your last name. Why? Because your last name is so common, right? You just don't want to use the combination of first and last. But last names are so common, right, that it's going to be hard for them to be able to really do the like the forensic research that they need to do to be able to associate you with that trust, right? Another thing is that the word trust does not have to be in the name, okay? So it doesn't, your trust doesn't have to end in the word trust, okay? So you don't even want people to know that that entity is a trust, okay? So you just name it, a couple of generic words put together, okay? You can use abbreviations as well. So usually I see that that's pretty cool. A lot of people, if they're doing like a family estate, they'll use legacy, dynasty, things like that, okay? So now that you determine what you're going to call your entity, you want to appoint the different parties involved, right? Before you start actually creating your trust. So who is going to be the grantor, right? So if you're creating an irrevocable trust, you cannot be the grantor and the trustee, okay? So you have to choose one position. The grantor has no power in the control and the trustee has all the power and control. So you want to be the trustee of your trust. You want to operate your trust. You want to have full control over the assets that you're putting inside of your trust. So you're going to appoint yourself as the trustee. Then you're going to appoint someone else to be your grantor since you can't serve as the grantor for an irrevocable trust, okay? So that individual can be a next of kin, right? It could be a grandparent, it could be a parent, it could also be a sibling, a neighbor, a best friend, someone who is able to actually notarize the trust with you, okay? Then you're going to choose your beneficiaries. So your beneficiaries are usually your children, your spouse, or your, family member that you want to inherit your assets. And then you're going to choose your successor because you have to understand that your trust, your estate is designed to outlive you, right? And so if that trust, if you're establishing it for 100 years, just know that it's not likely that you're going to last 100 more years. So who is going to take over after you in the event that you become incapacitated, that you expire, or that you decide to resign, right? So that successor is a successor trustee. So they're going to be dormant and waiting for you to resign or, or for, something to happen to where you're not able to operate the trust, and then they just pick up where you left off, okay? So those positions are highly, highly, highly important. Then after that, you're going to create your trust. So you're going to put all the rules and regulations and provisions inside of the trust of how you actually want that trust to be operated. Once you've done that, then it's time to notarize the trust. So it needs to be notarized by the grantor and the trustee. Those are the two individuals that need to sign in order for this contract to be fully executed. So once the contract is executed and they have signed, then at that point in time, it is a legal entity and you are now able to use it and operate it, okay? So now that it's notarized, what is the first thing that you want to do? Well, you want to actually open up that trust fund account, right? And so the trust fund account, it could be a savings account, a checking account, a brokerage account, a money market account, any type of account with a financial institution in the name of the trust. These financial institutions could be banks, credit unions, brokerages, okay? And so you're going to provide them with your EIN letter for banking purposes and your certificate of trust, which proves the identity of the trust, right? Because your trust, let's just say your trust is 60, 70 pages, right? You're not going to bring your entire trust to the bank, right? So all you're going to do is you're going to provide the certificate of trust to let them know that this entity exists, okay? So once you opened up your bank account, then you need to fund it, okay? So just depending on the bank, what their minimum is. Some banks are $100, okay? Some banks are a few $1,000s. So it just depends on which bank you choose. After you funded your trust fund, now it's time to actually put assets into that fund, right? Because with this trust, with the trust, right? The whole point that you're actually establishing the trust is to protect your assets. So you actually have to transfer those assets into the trust in order for them to be protected. Because right now, those assets are in your personal name, right? That house that you have is in your personal name, right? And that is a huge liability. And I'll show you why in just a moment. But right now with that house, your name is on the deed. And so in order for you to put that property into the trust, one, you have to actually physically write that the trust, write or list it as an asset inside of the trust, right? So we do that on the Schedule B. And then two, you have to actually deed the property over, right? So you have the deed to that house. It's in your personal name. You're going to gift that property to the trust. And then what you're going to do is you're going to notarize and record a new deed. So you're going to notarize the deed. You're going to go down to the county and you're going to record the new deed. So now the county is going to update the public records to show that the trust is the new owner of that house, okay? So that is how you're actually going to transfer the property in to the trust, and now that property is protected. Protected from what? Well, with your trust, right? Your number one reason for actually establishing it is asset protection. The second reason would be for privacy, right? And so if you're wanting to protect your assets, the trust can actually protect you from bankruptcy, divorce, foreclosures, heavy taxations, lawsuits, probate, right? Those are just a few that I want to bring to your attention, right? So let me briefly talk about divorce, right? Divorce is a transfer of wealth, you guys, okay? So unfortunately, a divorce is a lawsuit between two spouses, right? And so with a divorce, sometimes one spouse can end up with everything or half. And so the way that you can actually protect your assets from a divorce is by one, establishing a trust, and two, putting those assets in a trust. Why? Because like we said, the divorce is a lawsuit, right? But everything that is going to be included in this divorce is everything that's in your personal name. So meaning that 401k, that checking account, that vehicle, the credit cards, the loans that you have, the taxes that's on the way, the house, right? All of those things that's in your personal name is going to be included in the divorce, right? But the assets that you have inside of the trust. So let's just say you have a trust, you got 5 houses and, $500,000. That cannot be pulled into your divorce. Why? Because the trust is a separate entity from you. You are an entity. Everything in your personal name is included in the divorce. The trust is not you. So everything that's inside of the trust will not be included in your divorce. Okay, that's how you can protect yourself. Okay. The next thing is heavy taxations, right? A lot of us are giving away half of our income. And so a trust can actually help you reduce your taxes so that you can allocate those funds other places, right? So there's a special trust that we use. It's a ministry trust. And what you can do is you can donate legally per the IRS up to 60% of your annual gross income to your ministry trust, to your nonprofit tax exempt trust, right? You can donate it, right? And so what that means is if you're making $100,000 and you donate $60,000 to your ministry trust, you're only going to be taxed on 40% now. or $40,000. So just imagine how much money you are saving by utilizing this type of trust to reduce your taxes so that you could put yourself in position, put your family in position to grow wealth faster, right? Because you're not giving it away to the government. Number 5 is lawsuits, right? Do not wait to get sued in order to protect yourself from a lawsuit. I see it so many times where people are, wanting to protect themselves after the fact. They're already knee deep into a judgment, right? So you don't want that to happen. So, and especially if you're in the United States of America, right? This country is a sue-friendly country. Your neighbor literally wants to sue you. Your sibling literally wants to sue you. Okay, so you need to protect yourself. Why? Because if you lose a lawsuit, they can come after your personal assets, which means that they can seize your house and they can garnish your wages and they can garnish your bank account. You don't want that to happen, okay? Number 6 is probate, right? So with probate, right, it's something that we're all going to have to go through, unfortunately, okay? So probate is absolutely inevitable unless we have our affairs in order, right? And so the way that we can actually avoid probate is by us setting up our own estate, right? So this is the way that it works, right? A lot of people think that, oh, I have a will, right? And so they think that the will is good enough, but it's not good enough. A will is literally a wish list, you guys. A will is a list where you're saying, I wish that my daughter will get my house. But ultimately, it's going to be up to a judge, right? Why? Because a will cannot own your asset. A will is just a contract, right? But a trust can. A trust can own your asset, okay? So with that being said, let's just say, for example, that you have a primary residence, right? So you have a house, you have a will, right? So you have a will, you have a house, you have other assets, right? Let's just say you have a car, you got 6 figures in the bank, you got some credit card debt, some medical debt, some student loan debt, right? So you decided, or maybe God decided, that you wasn't going to wake up tomorrow, right? So now what is happening, right? Well, because you didn't have your affairs in order, because you was only relying on a will, what's going to happen is your children, your heirs, they are going to have to go through probate, right? The only way to avoid probate is by setting up a trust and creating your own estate, right? So what's going to happen is your state, where you reside, where you're a resident, right? So let's just say that you live in Georgia, right? So you're a resident of Georgia, right? That state is going to create an estate for you. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you're either going to let the state do it or you're going to do it yourself. So you decided to let the state do it. So now the state created an estate for you, the Sally Sue, estate, right? So now what's going to happen is all of your assets are going to go in there. The house, the car, the 6 figures, right? And now what's going to happen is your estate needs to be represented in probate court, right? So it needs to be represented by a probate attorney, and it also needs to be, represented in court. So now it's going to be seen or go in front of a probate judge, right? And so what's going to happen is that judge is going to pay all your debt first, right? So you have the medical bills, the judge pays that off. You have the credit card debt, the judge pays that off. You have the student loan debt, the judge pays that off, right? And let's just say you have a vehicle loan, the judge pays that off, right? So now all of your debt is paid. Whatever is left over is what your children get. So your children literally get the leftovers. That is the position that you have put them in, right? And you have to think about it, right? Your children, they're grieving, right? They are in a fragile state because they just lost the most important person in their life. And so now you're dragging them through the court system to be able to, inherit your home when you already knew that you wanted them to inherit your home, right? So your children literally get the leftovers. And I've seen it so many times where the debt was so much that the judge decided to sell the house to cover the debt. Literally, to sell the house to cover the medical bills from the nursing home, right? Or the $50,000 school loan, right? So you don't want that to happen, okay? So now, on the contrary, if you decided, yeah, I want to create my own estate, I want to get my affairs in order, I want to protect my assets. If you had a trust, all of your assets was in the trust, right? The house, the car, the money, right? Then if you didn't wake up tomorrow, guess what happens? Nothing. Why? Because everything's going to remain intact. The house is going to remain under the name of the trust. The car, the bank account, everything remains intact. Your children get to grieve, in peace, and the debt that you had, it dies with you. Those creditors cannot come after your trust, and they cannot come after the assets that are inside of the trust. So it's very important that you have your affairs in order and that you avoid the probate process. The only way you're going to do that is by setting up a trust. There's no other way to avoid probate. So let's keep moving on. The next thing that I want to teach you guys before we wrap it up is the wealth building formula, you guys, right? So what we see here is we got 3 pillars. You have structure, you have credit, and you have invest, okay? So let's talk about structure. With structure, it's very important that you are structured properly, okay? And this is the structure that I recommend. You definitely want a for-profit and you definitely want a nonprofit within your structure. So I recommend that you have multiple trusts within your structure as well. Why? Because you don't want to have all of your eggs in one basket, okay? Just like you don't want to have all of your assets in one trust, because in the event that somebody decides to sue that trust, all of those assets that are in that trust is fair game for that lawsuit, right? So that's why we have specifically designed trusts for specific reasons. So the 3 trusts that I recommend most people get is a business trust, a family trust, and a tax-exempt nonprofit trust, okay? So let's go through it. So with the business trust, right, you can use this trust in 2 ways. You could either use it as a holding company to where it's going to hold your other businesses. So this specific type of trust is designed to manage other entities, okay? So with the business trust, let's just say that you have a corporation, a S Corp, C Corp, LLC. The business trust is now going to be the owner, because right now, right, a lot of people, they don't know that LLC stands for limited liability company, right? And so it's in the word, right? You have limited liability. A lot of people think that the company has full liability, but it doesn't. So let's just say that you have an LLC and somebody decides that they want to sue your business. You got a client, they want to sue your business, right? And so right now you are the owner of your business. You are the authorized member of your business. All they have to do is go down to the Secretary of State's website and type in your name, and your business, or every single business that you own in that state, comes up, right? Because it's a part of the public records. Or they put in the business name and your name comes up as the owner, right? And so you don't have any privacy, right? So that's one thing, right? So let's just say that they decide to sue your business. Well, what could happen is if they sue your business and the business loses the lawsuit and there's a judgment and the business, the company can't fulfill the judgment, then what happens is the judge can decide to pierce through that corporate veil, right? Because you had a small layer of protection, which was the LLC, right? But the LLC, that company, has limited liability. Guess who has the other limited liability? Guess who has the other half of that liability? You. So if the judge pierces through that corporate veil, then they can go after you as the authorized member personally. If they decide to go after you, then guess what? Like I said earlier, they can seize your home. They can garnish your W-2 income. They can garnish your bank account with the 6, 7 figures in it. You don't want that to happen, right? I've talked to so many people who their business is getting sued, right? So you don't want to wait for your business to get sued for you to then protect yourself. So the business trust is going to be your first layer of protection. Why? Because the first thing that you're going to do is you are going to remove yourself as the owner of that business. You are literally going to to do an amendment, remove yourself as the owner, and now you're going to put the business trust as the owner of that company, right? And so now what's going to happen is if that company gets sued and if they decide to pierce through the corporate veil, they're going to be going after the trust. And the beautiful thing about the trust is that the trust has full liability. So they can't come after you personally ever, okay? So they would have to sue the trust and whatever assets that you hold inside of that business trust. So that's why I'm telling you it's super important that you don't have all of your assets in one trust, right? So with the business trust, you're just going to have operating funds in there, right? So that is one way that you can use the business trust. The second way that you can use the business trust is to operate a business, right? Because if you're using the business trust as a holding company, it's non-operational, which means that it doesn't provide any products or any services to the community, right? All it's doing is it's holding your LLCs and your corps, okay? But if, let's just say that you didn't want to open up an LLC or a corp, right? Then what you can do is, because a trust is superior to those statutory entities, what you can do is you can actually just operate your business, right? So if you have like an e-com company or something like that, right? A hair salon, whatever kind of company it is, you can set it up. Instead of setting it up as an LLC, you can set it up as a business trust and then operate your business that way, okay? So that's one thing, right, with the trust. And then another thing is, let's just say that that LLC is generating money, right? So one thing about the LLC is that it's a pass-through entity. So if that LLC is generating $100,000, right, that money can be K1 distributed to the business trust, right? And now it's going to be up to the business trust to be able to pay taxes. And the thing that I love about these entities is that with these entities, you spend the money first and you're taxed on the leftovers, right? And that's not how we're taxed personally, right? Personally, we are taxed first and then we get to spend the leftovers. So you want to be operating this type of entity because you're going to be saving more, right? By getting to spend the money first. So out of that money that came in, out of that 100,000, let's just say that you spent 40 of it, right, on operations. So now you have 60 left, right? And so with a trust, it's taxed anywhere between 10 to 39%, right? So the beautiful thing about the trust is two things. One, if you distribute the income, right, then that means that if you distribute it to the beneficiary, now it's up to the beneficiary to pay taxes on it, and you're going to have a zero tax liability. Or if you decide not to distribute and just hold the funds in there, then it won't trigger a taxable event. So let's just say that we distributed the funds, right, to the beneficiary. Well, what we do is we make the beneficiary of the business trust the family trust, right? And so now that 60,000 flows into the family trust. Now the family trust is going to be taxed, right? But guess what? We get to spend the money first and get taxed on the leftovers. So out of that 60,000, right, what does it cost to operate your business? I mean, to operate your family, because you have to look at your family as a business. You have to run your family as a business, as an organization, right? So for your family, what do you have? You have mortgage, you have groceries, you have car note, gas, utility bills, right? So all of those are considered operating expenses in order to maintain the assets inside of that trust, right? So out of that 60,000, you already, get to write off 50 of it, and now you have $10,000 left, right? So now what's going to happen is you're going to be taxed 10% on that 10,000. Or what you can do is you can then use a donation, and you can donate a portion of it, right? So you can donate a portion of it to your tax exempt trust, right? So now you've reduced your taxes significantly, okay? So now whatever portion, let's just say it's 5,000, right? You decide to donate to the tax exempt trust. Now at that point, you with that trust, from that 5,000 that you put in there, you don't have to pay taxes on it because it's tax exempt, right? So with that type of trust, right, you want to be donating as much as you can. Like I said, if you're a W-2 or 1099, it could be up to 60%. If it's a corporation, it could be up to 25%, right? Because now you're going to be reducing your tax liability. So with the tax exempt trust, right, it is already exempt from federal taxes, right? So it is what we consider a 508c1a, okay? That's the designation for that type of trust. So because you created a trust and is designated as a 508c1a, it's automatically exempt from having to file federal taxes, okay? Why? Because of the separation between church and state. So this type of trust can be labeled as a church. It can be labeled as a ministry. It can be labeled as a faith-based organization. It could be labeled, and it doesn't have to only be religious. It could also be educational, okay? So, but it is a nonprofit and it is tax exempt, and you do not have to file a 501c3, okay? So that's a beautiful thing, because like I told you earlier, you get to reduce your taxes, which then means you can allocate those funds to other places, right? So now let's move on to the second pillar. The second pillar is credit. So that's where you're putting yourself in the position of using OPM, right? That is how you're actually going to get to really create generational wealth, right? There's no way for you to create generational wealth without using OPM, right? And I don't want to say it that way, but a lot of millionaires, multimillionaires, they leverage credit, they leverage banks, they leverage other people's money. You need to do the same thing, right? Why is it that you want to build your wealth just off of your paycheck? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So with our second pillar, right? Two things. One, because you have a nonprofit within your structure, you get to actually take advantage of grants, right? Two, you also, because you have a business trust within your structure, you get to establish business trust, business credit, right? So that is the position that you want to put yourself in. You want to put yourself in a position to where now what you're doing is you are going to be establishing business credit for that business trust. Why? Because that business trust has an EIN. And so you're going to now be eligible to build credit off that EIN, just like an LLC, just like a corporation, okay? So you want to put yourself in that position, because now you're going to be leveraging a second credit profile. You don't only want to depend on your personal credit, right? Because with a business trust, right, or just business credit in general, you get to qualify for higher lines of credit, right? So you get to qualify for, credit cards with 100,000, 50,000, stuff like that, versus 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 on the personal side. So you might as well leverage two credit profiles versus one, okay? So now with that business credit that you are establishing for the business trust, you're going to turn around and use that credit in order to invest, in order to acquire assets, okay? So let's move on to the next pillar, which is invest, right? So with the next pillar, there are two assets that I recommend. So the first one is an index universal life insurance policy, or what we label as a cash value policy, okay? And then the second one is real estate. And so one is the insurance policy is liquid, and then real estate is that tangible asset, right? Both of them are assets, okay? So let's talk about the insurance policy, right? A lot of people think that insurance is supposed to be utilized when they're dead. But I'm here to tell you today that insurance is actually supposed to be utilized when you're living, right? So their insurance policies have a lot of living benefits, but it depends on the type of policy that you have, right? It has to be a permanent policy. It has to be a whole life policy, right? So it can't be like a term policy. So the one that I like, right? I personally, my trust owns 5 policies, right? And so all of them are IUL policies, the Index Universal Life policies. So with this type of policy, right? You see the word index. which means that it actually follows an index on the market, right? And so that index could be, you know, there's a lot of them. You have Dow Jones, NASDAQ, you have S&P 500, right? So it follows a certain index. So whatever the market is doing, whatever that index is doing, what's going to happen is the carrier is going to match that, right? And so this type of policy, it has a bucket, right, that actually builds cash value, okay? So you're going to be paying your premiums. A portion of it is going to go to the carrier for their fees, right? A portion of it is going to go, and then the rest of it is going to go to your cash value, okay? So now you're building cash value inside of your policy. And the beautiful thing about it is that, like I said, the insurance carrier is going to put you in a position to where you get to earn compound interest, right? Because whatever, let's just say the S&P 500 is doing, 9%. Well, the carrier is going to match that 9% and give you 9% return on your cash value, okay? So that's extremely powerful because with this type of policy, it's tax-free, right? And it's liquid and it's seen as an asset, okay? But now you get to use this type of policy. So now you're insuring your life, it just in case anything happens to you. But now you get to use this policy to build wealth, right? Because you're going to be earning compound interest off of the money that you're putting inside of this policy, right? So what you want to do is you want to put yourself in a position to where you pay yourself first, right? And so a lot of us, we're not doing that. We can't even comprehend what that looks like. And so I'm here to tell you that it really takes a mindset shift for you to be able to implement this to where you are now paying yourself first, because that is not what is happening, right? So what's happening right now is, let's just say you're a W-2 employee, right? Well, it's Friday. You just got paid, right? But before you got your paycheck, who got paid first? The IRS. The IRS got paid first. Then you did your 401k distributions. Social Security got their deductions, right? Their contributions, and Medicare. So you have these 4 deductions before you got paid. And then what happens? You get a direct deposit into your bank account, right? And so that money is going to whose bank? That money is going to Chase and Wells Fargo. So now you're putting yourself in a position to where you are making Chase and Wells Fargo rich because they're leveraging your paycheck. They're loaning it out to people who are getting mortgages and car loans, and they're going to give you 0.000005%, right? While they're out here making 10 and 15%. So now your money, you put it inside of Chase Bank first, right? To make Chase rich. Okay. Right. And then what do? Let's be honest. You pay your mortgage. You pay your rent. You buy groceries. You put gas in the car. You pay tuition. You pay all of these things, right? The utility bills. You pay all of these things first. And whatever is left over, you let it sit inside of your checking account. That's the rat race. That's your reality. That's what you've been doing this entire time. I'm here to tell you that you're not going to be able to create generational wealth that way. What you need to do is put yourself in the position to where you pay yourself first before you pay your mortgage, before you pay the car note and the groceries. And so the way that you're going to do that is by leveraging that cash value life insurance policy. So let me break it down to you, right? Let's just say that you just got paid today. Your paycheck is $5,000. Instead of you paying the mortgage and the utilities, what you're going to do is you're going to deposit that $5,000 into your policy, into your cash value policy. Now, your cash value went up by $5,000, right? And so now what's going to happen is you're going to earn compound interest off that $5,000. So you are going to pay yourself first, right? So because you have to understand your policy, that's your own private money bank, right? So that's your bank. You out here worrying about Chase Bank and Wells Fargo and making them rich when you need to be depositing your money into your own bank and making yourself rich, right? So that 5,000 is going into your policy. You're going to earn the 9% that the S&P 500 is doing. And then guess what? You need to be able to pay your rent or you're going to get evicted. So what you're going to do is you're going to borrow, right? You're going to take out a loan from your policy. And the beautiful thing that I love about this type of policy is that, one, they're going to collateralize your cash value, right? So the carrier, they're going to receive that loan, that loan form. They're going to look and see, okay, yes, John has 5,000 in his cash value, so we're going to give him a loan, right? But you're going to have to leave a little bit of cushion in there. So let's just say they issue you a loan for 4,800, right? Well, guess what? They issued you a loan for that 4,800. That money went direct deposit back into your checking account, back into Chase Bank, right? But the beautiful thing is that that money did not come out of your cash value. So your 5,000 is still sitting inside of your cash value and your policy working, making compound interest. And that 5,000 that was just loaned to you came from the insurance company's money, from their reserves. They direct deposit that money into your account. Why? So that you could pay your rent, so that you could put food on the table, and so that you could have gas to go to work. All right? And so the beautiful thing that I love about this policy is that that loan that you just took out, you do not have to pay it back. It is not required. Why? Because that loan will automatically be deducted from your death benefit. So you have a death benefit with this loan. Let's just say it's $500,000, right? So that money will be deducted from the $500,000. Now, what's going to happen is, one, that policy needs to be structured the right way. So don't think that you can just go out here and get any old type of IUL, because that's not the situation, right? It needs to be structured the right way and necessarily by the right companies, okay? So that's one. Two, this policy, you want it to be owned by your trust. You want the payer of the policy to be your trust, and you want the beneficiary to be the trust. Okay? So now, if anything were to happen to you, guess what? That death benefit that's associated with that policy, it goes to your trust. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, okay? So the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is real estate. Okay, so with real estate, I highly recommend it. One, because you need tangible assets, right? Everything can't be in the clouds. So you need to be able to look, feel, touch, right? So real estate, it is one of the best types of assets to have. You want to put yourself in the position to where your trust can sustain itself, to where your trust is generating its own income, to where the trust is put in a position to where it has its own assets, right? And you're not here stuck pouring in your W-2 income into the trust, okay? So the way that you're going to do that is by way of these two assets. So let's talk about real estate. First thing is that the trust can actually qualify for a mortgage. So that's one. Two, you need to put the trust in position to qualify for the mortgage. So remember how I told you earlier how you want to be building credit for the trust. That's one, right? Or business credit for the business trust. Not all of the trust, just choose one, right? Then the second, then the next thing is that what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to acquire real estate. And so one of the loans that I love is a debt service ratio loan. Why? Because that loan is specifically for investment properties. That's what you're going to be getting with the trust, an investment property. So you can qualify to get that mortgage, and they'll cover 80% of the purchase price. So you need to come up with 20% as the down payment. Where is that money going to come from? Well, earlier we had spoke about the business trust, establishing business credit. That's where the money's going to come from, right? You are going to use OPM, other people's money. Other people's money is one, the mortgage company, and two, your business credit cards, right? Because your business credit cards, right? Let's just say you get 2 credit cards for $25,000. That's $50,000 that you're going to use as a down payment. So what you have to do is you have to strip those credit cards, right? So you have to strip those credit cards. Now you have liquid $50,000 in your checking account, right? In your trust fund account. What are you going to do with that money? The first thing that you're going to do with that money is you're going to deposit it into your cash value life insurance policy. Why? Because now your cash value is going to go up by 50,000. And guess what? You're paying yourself first. You're going to be earning compound interest. That 9% that we've been talking about, you're going to earn 9% off of that $50,000 that is now in your cash value. But you need that money for your down payment for the real estate. So you're going to borrow it out, right? They're going to deposit it back into your trust fund account. Now you're going to use it. You're going to go to the closing table for that home, and you're going to use it as the down payment for that real estate. Right? So now that 50,000 is working twice. Why? Because it's working inside of your insurance policy, earning 9%, earning compound interest. And now you have it invested inside of this home that is cash flowing, right? And so that cash flow, right, that monthly income, what are you going to do with it? You're going to pay yourself first. So that money is going to go inside of your cash value. You're going to borrow it back out, and you're going to be able to pay the mortgage and the credit card, right? And then the rest is just going to sit in the trust fund account and start accumulating. That is how you're going to build wealth, right? A lot of us, we are so, we're talking about, hey, I'm building generational wealth, but you need to be doing this, right? This is what you need to be doing in order to build that generational wealth, right? So hold on, I see somebody off of mute. Who is it? All right, Kenfield Taylor, off of mute. I just muted you. All right, so before I go to the next slide, I want to know, how is this information going, you guys? Like, how I need some fireballs in the chat if you guys are enjoying what I'm putting down. If y'all picking up what I'm putting down, can you put some fireballs in the chat? Let me look at the chat. Okay, I see some fireballs. Okay. All right, they getting it. All right, Nisi. All right, Nunez said amazing information. Okay, awesome. Okay, Jules said, when is the next webinar? All right, guys, I see a bunch of fireballs. Thank you so much. So I got 2 more slides for you, and then it's a wrap. We're going to open up Q&A, guys, okay? So let me go back to my slides here. All right, let's see. All right, so next, how to transfer the wealth, right? So we just actually learned how to build the wealth. Now the question is how we're going to transfer the wealth, right? You want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. And I'm going to say that again, because like I said, this is going to take a mindset shift. You're going to now have to put yourself in a position to where you are operating as a trustee, and to where you're now paying yourself first, and to where you're now establishing your own private bank. That don't have nothing to do with Wells Fargo and Chase. Own nothing but control everything. That is the definition of stewardship. That is the position that you need to put you and your family in, especially if you walking around here talking about generational wealth. Right? Stewardship, because right now you're operating in ownership, and that's not the way. So right now, you're walking around being a proud owner of your house. You letting everybody know, I own that house right there on Main Street, right? It's all over the public records, right? And so that's not the way, because like we said, anybody could literally seize your assets, right? They could sue you, they could seize the assets, or the government could snatch your house and literally auction it off, you know, at the stairs of the county. You don't want that to happen. What you want, right? Instead of being a proud owner of this house, you need to put in your mind that that house is going to outlive you. So that house that you own in your personal name, if you didn't wake up tomorrow, that house is still going to be there. So instead of you focus on ownership, what you need to do is all you want really is to control that house while you're living in it. And the way that you're going to do that is through stewardship. So that's what you want. You want to be a good steward of your wealth, because now you know the direction of your estate. Now you know how the income is going to go. Now you know how the assets are going to be transferred. Now you put rules and regulations in place. Please don't think that you're going to create wealth without having these tools in place. How many times have we seen it to where we have celebrities, athletes, famous families, that the wealth doesn't even leave this generation? And if it does, it doesn't last the second or third generation. They're broke. Why? Because they didn't have these tools in place. And that's what you need. You need to have the right tools in place. So focus on stewardship versus ownership. The second thing, when we're talking about transferring wealth, with your trust is going to generate or create TCUs, which are trust certificate units. These trust certificate units is just like a stock certificate. So you know how a stock certificate represents ownership inside of a company, right? Well, a TCU represents beneficial interest inside of a trust, okay? So that's the position that you need to put yourself in, because now what happens is with your beneficiaries, they're going to be TCU holders, right? And so your trust is going to create 100 TCUs. It's up to you as the trustee to distribute those TCUs. Let's say that I'm one of your beneficiaries. You give me 20 TCUs out of that 100, right? Well, that means that I have 20% beneficial interest inside of the trust, right? So if the trust is worth $1 million, guess what my beneficial interest is? My beneficial interest is $200,000, right? So that I'm not going to receive that money, but that's what my beneficial interest is. Let's just say I wanted to cash in, right? I didn't agree with this estate. I want to cash in if I'm allowed to, right? Then I cash in my TCUs and I walk away with 200,000 cash or with properties worth that value. Okay. So that's TCUs, right? The next thing is preservation, because a lot of us, right, we are not preserving our wealth, right? So there's two tools that you need when you're preserving your wealth. Okay. So the first tool is the trust. The second tool is the cash value life insurance policy. So like I said earlier, right, the trust is going to be the owner of the policy, the payer of the policy, and the beneficiary of the policy. Why? Because within your trust, you have liquid assets, you have tangible assets, but then you also have human assets. Who are the human assets? You are the human asset. Every single human associated with that trust is a human asset. That means the trustee, the co-trustees, and the beneficiaries. Okay, those are the human assets. And so if the trust loses an asset, the trust is devastated. The trust needs to be compensated for that loss. So because you are the trustee, if anything were to happen to you, the trust needs to be compensated, and they will, because that death benefit from that life insurance policy, let's just say it's $2 million, is going to go straight to the trust fund. And now the trust is compensated for the loss, right? And now the trust is replenished, right? That's how you're going to preserve the wealth, right? So with that being said, the trust is going to take out a policy on every single person associated with the trust, meaning the trustees and the beneficiaries and all of the future beneficiaries, right? Those beneficiaries, those are what we call the trust fund babies. So let's just say that there's a baby that's born into this trust estate today, right? Well, that baby is now a beneficiary of the trust. And when that baby is 30 days old, the trust is going to take out a policy on that baby. So now the trust is going to be paying that premium and building cash value. That cash value is going to be compounding, following the S&P 500, compounding while that baby is growing. So now this trust fund baby, fast forward, is now 18 years old. So now this trust fund baby is going away to college, so has tuition, and needs their first car. So normally they would get student loans and a car loan, right? So instead of them being able to do that, right? Because normally they will go down to the dealership, pull their credit, and start getting into this high interest loan and start paying, $800-900 payments. Instead of them doing that, what they can do is they can go to the trust estate and they can take out a loan for the student loans and the vehicle. And so now what's going to happen is the trustee is going to cut a check, right? So let's just say they need $50,000. The trustee is going to make them sign a promissory note to pay back that $50,000 plus interest. Let's just say the interest is 2%, right? Something small. We don't have to go over the top, right? We're not the dealership. So, right, the trustee issues out a check for $50,000, and in return, what's going to happen now is that trust fund baby, that beneficiary, is now going to pay the trust, right? Small payments, $350 a month, right? Versus paying $900 to the dealerships, right? And so now they're making the payments. Let's just say that that trust fund baby decides to default. Oh, I don't want to pay the trust anymore. Well, what's going to happen is it was actually a risk-free loan. And how was it a risk-free loan? Was because the money did not come from the trust fund. The money actually came from that trust fund baby, that beneficiary's life insurance policy. So remember that the trust took out the cash value life insurance policy when he or she was 30 days old, right? So the trustee went and contacted the insurance company and borrowed against the life insurance policy off the cash value. So that $50,000 actually came from the life insurance carrier's money, right? So that money was deposited into the trust fund account. The trustee issued out a check, right? So now it doesn't need to be paid back because that loan is going to be deducted from the death benefit. So it was a risk-free loan. And when that trust fund baby expires, that $3 million death benefit is going to go to the trust because the trust is the beneficiary. That is how you're going to put your family in position to where they are preserving the wealth. That is how you're truly going to generate or create or establish the generational wealth that you walk around here talking about, right? So you're not going to create generational wealth if you don't have a trust and if you do not have the life insurance policies on the members that's inside of the trust. Okay. So, so that's why it's super, super, super important. Okay. So we need to always be thinking about that, right? Because we don't do it, right? We don't think about, one, how am I going to create the wealth? Two, how am I going to protect the wealth? Three, how am I going to transfer the wealth? Four, how am I going to preserve the wealth? We do not think about it, right? And so this is, this is the formula. This is what you have to do. So these are the books that I recommend. Okay, we've been here for an hour now, guys. It's time to wrap it up. So these are the books that I recommend. What Would the Rockefellers Do? I love that book. Okay, so is this what the Rockefellers did? Absolutely. So with that being said, this book is really good because it teaches you how to utilize a trust and insurance together as a marriage. The second book is The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1 and 2. It teaches you about trusteeship, okay? So it teaches you about how to actually operate the trust. The next book is Family Wealth. So it teaches you how to actually run your family like a business, how to create a family office. And then the last one is The Complete Book of Trust, which teaches you about the different types of trust, okay? So this is a quick little video I want to show you on a trustee who took action on the information that I'm providing you guys with tonight.
Well, kudos to you all. Again, Christina, it's been a wonderful experience. I've been looking at your videos on YouTube for a while, and there are a number of people offering trust these days, and I guess that's the big thing. Don't own anything, control everything. That kind of, I didn't say it correctly, but that is the sentiment. And so it seems like the playing field is being leveled now from the rich and people who weren't privy to this information. So thank you for being such a great asset to a community that didn't have this information. And you made it so simple. Thank you for the recordings. Thank you for the step-by-step instructions. Things that we can go back and look at. So we do appreciate you, and thank you, Mondo.
All right, guys. So let's work together. I do have a program where you can learn all of the things that I was speaking about tonight, right? So there's only so much that I can go through in 60 minutes. So in the program, you're actually going to learn how to set up these trusts, right? The ones that I spoke about. Right? The business trust, if you're an entrepreneur or own a business, right? The family trust, if you want to actually leave that generational wealth, and the tax exempt nonprofit trust, if you actually want to donate your income and reduce your taxes and be qualified for being exempt, right? You could actually be qualified from being exempt from federal taxes, state taxes, city taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, right? So one, you can actually do it yourself, right? Where I have a course. In the course, it comes with 42 video modules, and you can actually get the templates for the trust. You'll download them, you'll customize them. I break down every single paragraph of the trust, right? Every single trust is not the same. So all three of these trusts are different, right? So I break them down so that you can understand it. Don't think that you are out here operating the trust that you don't understand. It's very important that you know what's inside of the trust, okay? So I'm going to show you what a trust looks like in just a moment. So you get lifetime access to the course, and then you get resources and ebooks. So the books that I just mentioned, some of those books are valued at over $800, and you get them in the program in an ebook form for free. The resources is, if you need to file taxes, we give you the tax documents, right? If you need to have a board meeting, we give you those documents. If you need to transfer your house, we give you the deed. If you need to transfer your car, if you need to open up a bank account, we give you all of the templates and resources that you need to actually efficiently operate your trust, right? And then we have a private Facebook community, you guys. So the Facebook community has almost 300 people in it. And all of the people in the, not all, but majority of the people in the community are trustees. So they have already been through what you're about to go through. They are going to serve as a resource for you, okay? So we're posting in there every single day. And then we meet every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. As a community, and we strategize, we go through Q&A and things like that. So the course is $997. The second option is done with you, okay? That is where you need the accountability. And so we do it on a workshop style basis. So we do it here on Zoom as a group. So it's me here breaking down every single trust, and a group of people, right? So usually it can be anywhere between 10, 20, people, just depends. We don't want it too big because we need to go through Q&A. So we do it Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Monday we set up the business trust together, and then we go through Q&A. Tuesday we set up the family trust together. Wednesday we set up the ministry, the tax exempt trust together, and then we become ordained. Thursday, we actually set up the EINs. We do board meetings and promissory notes so that you can actually open up a bank account and you can document how much you're going to fund your trust fund with. And then Friday, we transfer assets. So if you have a house, then what we do is we do a quick claim deed together. If you have a car, we do bill of sale together. If you have a business, we'll do the business purchase agreement and amendments with the Secretary of State together. And then the last thing is we learn about infinite banking, which is you actually leveraging that cash value life insurance policy that's going to be owned by the trust, and you learning how to become your own private bank, okay? So the next workshop is actually coming up this Monday, okay? So it's going to be Monday through Friday of next week, and it's going to be the 25th to, what is it? The 25th to what? Let me see. The 25th to the 29th, okay, you guys? So if you want to set up your trust right away, you want to make sure that it's done correctly, then you definitely want to get into the workshop, okay? You have lifetime access to the workshop. So you could attend every single workshop that we have in the future, plus you get the recordings to all of the past workshops, plus you still get the course, okay? So the workshop is $2,500. And then the last one is doing it one-on-one, where we do it private sessions, okay, you guys? And so that's for people who have multiple businesses, multiple assets, or their schedule is super demanding, or they just don't want to do it in a group setting or by themselves, okay? And so you get individualized support, you still get access to the course and the workshops, and you get to actually customize your trust, and you get extended support as well, right? So those are also, it's usually 5 to 6 Zoom calls as well. And the private sessions are only $10,000, okay? So those are your 3 options, and only for the people that I have here on the call today, right? So it's like, what, 41 people here? You guys get to enjoy 20% off for the next 24 hours, okay? So use the discount code TRUST20 if you want to take advantage of actually being able to get that 20% off, especially if you want to take action right away and get into the workshop that's next week, okay? So use the discount code TRUST20, and inside of the chat, you're going to see the link, which is wealthytrusty.com. So here, let me actually put my contact information. So this is my contact information. So if you call that number, I will answer, okay? That's the website, wealthytrusty.com. That is my email address, info@7waystowealth.com. Social media, personal and business, right? So if you have any questions or anything like that, you can also contact me there. But I'm going to open up the floor for Q&A so that I can answer some questions for you guys in the next couple of minutes, okay? Hold on one second, guys. Okay, so I want to show you what a trust looks like. Hold on one second. Let's see here.
Hey, hi there.
Hey, how are you?
How are
Ms.
you? I just had to add my 50 cents in. I want to make sure that everybody knows that I am happy to be here because I've dealt with different types of trusts like VIP and paid $1,200 and they didn't offer none of this like she's doing. There, it was not, you know, where you can go back to the videos and look at, there was no videos. I mean, you just had, they just did like basically a uh, one-on-one like we're doing tonight, but that's it. That's all you get. And you know, I'm just so happy that that other thing didn't work out, because now I'm here and I can always go back and get some extra how do you say, reiteration. I can always come back and if I'm not understanding something, I can always either go back to the videos. I can either contact Christina or who. There's so much support here. You you can't go wrong. I mean, why sit around fiddling? We ain't got a whole lot of time, because you know these people talking about come and get our stuff. So we got to protect our assets. We got to protect our children. You know, I really believe that you guys will not be disappointed if you do join. I really do not. I became an affiliate, so I am speaking on her behalf always, and it's always going to be good, because she is, there's no words. She's fantastic, fabulous. You know, she's good at what
Thank
she
you so
does.
much.
You know, you guys just have to get on board. If you're not sure, check out the well, you can't check out the Facebook group, because you got to join the Facebook group you got to be a member. So make sure you try to think about it and go ahead on and take the plunge, you know.
Christina the greatest.
What else you
Thank
got?
you guys. Thank you guys. Okay, let me show you guys what a trust looks like, and then I wanted to show you what the course looks like, but it's not letting me pull it up on this web browser. So this is what one of the trusts looks like, guys. So you see everything that's in red is what you're going to be filling out, right? So you're going to name your trust. You have a table of contents, right? You're going to put whatever state that you want to put it in, the day that you want to establish it, the time. You're going to put the grantor's information. So this trust is 51 pages, right? So I break down every single paragraph that you see of these 51 pages. So that is how thorough I am when I'm talking about, you know, and educating you guys on the trust, okay? This is what the course looks like, but I can't show you like the version of it that I want to. I don't know why it's not acting. But anyway, so you have your introduction, and then you have learning about the actual trust entity, right? So what is a trust? The different parties involved, the grantor, the beneficiaries, the successors. Then you learn about how to set up the tax-exempt ministry trust. So you got all these modules here. Then you learn about setting up the family trust, the business trust, and then we go through tax strategies so that you could qualify for tax exemptions with certain types of trust. And then we go through asset protection. So you take an inventory of your assets so that you can learn, you know, what assets are going to be inside of the trust, what's going to stay out of the trust. And then you learn how to open up a bank account, brokerage account, you know, how to transfer your house, your car, you know, how to transfer your company, things like that. And then we go into wealth creation, where you learn how to build credit, how to actually invest in the market, and then how to do infinite banking. And then the last thing is that we have like the resources and the ebooks available for you guys. Okay, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the floor for Q&A so that I can answer any questions that you guys might have. And the last thing I want to say is, for those of you guys who want to take advantage of the 20% off, but let's just say that you don't have the all of the money for the 20% off, what you can do is you can put a deposit down tonight for $200, and it's going to secure that 20% off offer. Okay, so I'm going to also put that in the chat, but raise your hand or come off mute and I'll answer any questions that you guys might have. So we got a couple minutes left for me to go through Q&A. So do you guys have any questions on setting up a trust or the insurance policies or anything that I mentioned tonight? I can't hear you if you're talking.
I
Kristen,
have
are
an
you?
appointment tomorrow
All
with
right.
IUL,
With the
1 o'clock.
IUL? All
Yes.
right, congratulations. So Miss Bay is about to
I
do her,
can't wait.
she's about to
Hey,
do her internet banking. Who's next?
hey, I had a question. So I
Hi,
just wanted
hi.
to, hello. I just wanted to know, do you offer like done for you service? Because I actually paid like someone like $6,000 and I didn't get nothing. And literally tomorrow, me and my CPA have an appointment with an attorney. And for some reason, I saw your text message pop up about this, and I'm like, let me jump in. And I was just basically amazed with the information. So
Okay,
I don't have the time to actually do it myself. So that's why
yeah.
I'm willing to pay someone.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. So if you sign up for the private sessions and so you can, it's optional if you want it to be done for you or if you want to actually attend the Zoom call. So if you don't have the time to do the Zoom calls, then it'll be done for you. So you do have to sign up for the private sessions. And you know, if you want 20% off, you could get 20% off the one-on-ones. So that's the only option that you would have if you want it done for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Who's next? We have Miss Torres.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I like your background. You look fabulous.
Thanks. I'm in New York right now. Kind of sorry.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding, I'm in Nashville. But my question, which thank you, this is a really great presentation. I actually have a trust already. I'm already ready to fire the lady that did it just after your presentation. So I would like to talk to you about
Wait a minute.
referring
I
my
feel bad for
client,
her. What? What? Oh
referring my clients this as we go further. But my question is, so you were talking about that trust where you gave an example where you put like you said they make $100,000 gross. They put 60,000 in the trust and then they had 40,000 to spend. So my question was, that's irrevocable trust, correct?
Yeah, so that type of trust is irrevocable. And there's a couple different ways that you can take the money out, right? Because a lot of people are
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I donated the money to the trust. How do I take it out? You take it out by
Right.
way of a loan, right? So you as a trustee, you can give loans to the trust. You can also take loans from the trust. Loans are also tax-free. So you will take out a loan for the money that you need. The other way is by rendering a service and doing a 1099, but that's taxable. So you really want to go the loan route.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Queen. Thank you for asking that good question. All right, and having such a lovely background. So who do we have next? We have Annie. Is that how I say your name, Annie?
Hi, Christina. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. A lot of information, really good stuff. A little bit overwhelmed, but
I know.
in terms of that, the one that I think Kristen was just asking about,
Mm-hmm.
then how often can you take loans on that type of?
So there's no restrictions. So you can put provisions in there if you want restrictions. So let's just say because you're creating the actual estate, right? Or the trust. So if you want to say, hey, you're only allowed to receive one loan per month, you can put that. Or you can make it unlimited. So like for my trust, there's no limitation. So I can take out a loan every single day if I wanted to. Just like with the life insurance policy too. So as long as you have funds available, if you wanted to take out multiple loans, you can. You could take out a loan every single day if it's available.
But do you have to? So once you set up the IUL, is there like a grace period, some type of, you have to wait like a year before you can start taking loans out? That's what I heard.
Okay, so it depends on how you structure it, right? So that's one. So your IUL needs to be structured properly, right? It needs to be structured the right way to where you have where you're accumulating like a low death benefit, right? You're setting it up for a low death benefit and to accumulate high cash value, okay? So that's
Mm.
one. Two, there is something called a surrender charge. The way that I look at it is I look at it like a security deposit, right? And so that surrender charge needs to be fulfilled before you're able to start borrowing out of your cash value, okay? So for example, let's just say that your surrender charge is, $1,000, right? And you are making premium payments of, $300 a month, right? Well, so now you're making the $300 a month, right? But a portion of it is going to your surrender charge and a portion of it is going to your cash value. So let's just say it is being split in half, right? So 150 is going to your surrender charge, and let's just say the other 150, just for simple explanation, the other 50 is going to your cash value, right? By the time it's going to take for that surrender charge to be fulfilled, it's going to be 11 months, right? 11 months before that 1,000, or 10 months, right? Let's just say 10. It's going to be 10 months or 10 months before that $1,000 is fulfilled. Once that $1,000 is fulfilled, then you're able to access your cash value. And that's only if you're doing the minimum, which is you're only paying that premium every single month, right? So it's going to take that long. The surrender charge, as long as you don't cancel that policy in like the first year or two, then depending on the carrier, so usually it's like 1.5 to 2 years. As long as you don't cancel the policy, that $1,000 is released back into your cash value. So that's why I said it's only like a security deposit, right? So that's one portion of it. So yes, it's going to take you 10 months if you're only doing the minimum premium, right? But let's just say that you want to be able to jumpstart your infinite banking and you want to be able to start paying yourself first and building up that cushion with your cash value. Then what you want to do is you want to front load your policy, right? So that $1,000, right, that we have for the surrender charge, well, what you can do is instead of you paying the $350 every single month, what you can do is you can just deposit, up front, $2,500. And so now that $1,000 is going to be fulfilled. And now you're going to have, probably 1,500 or a little bit less in your cash value available for you to borrow. And that's going to be within the first 30 days. So myself, with my policy, my surrender charge was $4,500. And so I was paying $3,000 a month. And so by the third month, I fulfilled that $4,500, and then I had a couple thousand inside of cash value, and I was able to borrow from my policy. So it just depends on you, how you structure it, and how you are, putting the money in.
Okay, so how do you know whether or not, because I have 2 IULs for my kids, but how do I know it was structured properly? Because there's just I just don't know that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, and you're right. You don't know that, right? So you always need a second opinion, right? Just like if I'm going to get a diagnosis today, I'm not going to just take, one person's word for it. I'm going to go get a second opinion and a third opinion. So that's what you're going to have to do. So you're going to have to contact other agents so that they can audit your policy, review it, and they'll be able to let you know. So I'm partnered with Marvin Mitchell. He is a financial advisor. He's been an advisor for 18 years. And so all of my, he's the person that I recommend, right? Him and his agents. And so they will do a complimentary review for you, okay? So if you go to the chat and if you go to the links that you see in there, one of the links is to book a call with his team, and they'll be able to, if you see it says book a call with our insurance partner, if you click on that link, then they'll do a complimentary review. So usually it's like $500, but if you go through me, I got the hookup, and they'll review your policy for free. You don't have to go pay somebody to do it.
Okay, perfect. And the last question is, the example you gave of that trust. So if we enter all the information that you highlighted, like in another, I think it was in red. Once we enter that, is it like we submit it and the trust is created? Because typically aren't trusts customized based on the person's needs? And you know what I'm saying? And this is a standard trust, correct? So this will be good for anyone?
Correct. Yeah. So remember, it's three different types of trust. So what I showed you was a standard business trust, right? So you have standard business operating provisions that are in there. But the red stuff is the customization. And then you can go even deeper, right? You can even add things to it. So for example, like there's 39 sections, right? You can add section 40, and then whatever it is for your industry, if you wanted to add a provision for your specific industry, like real estate, or, you know, if you had a hair company or something like that, you can add it in there. So it's customizable. There's no limits. You can delete what is not applicable. You can add anything that you want, and then you can just customize it to, you know, to your business. So you're going to name it. You're going to put the different parties involved. You're going to put rules. You're going to put regulations. You're going to do all of those things. And so we prompt you on where to do, like, where are the most important sections inside of the trust, where you need to customize it, where you need to tailor it to you. So yeah, we give you the template. That's just the bones. You need to put meat on it. So you need to be able to customize it for your business organization. And we show you how to do that. That's why we provide so much training.
She gives you a lot of training. I guarantee that you will never be, you know, like in the dark, like it, you know, like in the past, like people that maybe I've run across anyway. You will not be left in the dark. If you left in the dark, it's because you didn't do what you're supposed to be doing. That's all I got to say, because she is very thorough. Her videos are on point, detailed. I mean, I had to, when I listened to them, I'm like, dang, really? I didn't know this, because when I was dealing with the other people with the trust, I didn't know none of this. So now I'm starting to understand it. And this is why I come on the calls all the time, because I like to, you know, encourage other people too. Hey, man, you know, this is a good deal. And I've been doing this 7 years. And she the
Thank you.
best I've found so far.
Thank
For
you so
real.
much, Miss Bay. Yeah, so
Thank
we
you.
really,
You
you're so
deserve it,
welcome.
man. You deserve it. And then
Yeah,
you're a
we
woman too.
really build a community. So Ms. Bay, she's one of the community members. We got Allison, she's in the community as well. So there's a couple people, but we're really building out a community, and they're a resource for you. So you know, whatever you need. And then we do in-person meetups as well. So a bunch of us, we met in person in Atlanta in January, and a bunch of us are going to meet next month as well in person in Atlanta as well. So next we got Earl. Hey, Earl.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Finally. How are you?
Boom. What's up, millionaire? It's good to see you. Well,
Hey.
we're having a watch party at the office here, so we got 5 or 6 people watching you on the TV, and 2
Nice.
people had the same question.
Okay.
They're holding property that is in Belize, and they wanted to know if they needed an international trust to put that property in, or are they able to do it with the trust that you have listed?
Yeah, so the trust that we provide are domestic trusts, so they do need international trust. So the good thing about our program is that we are going to be rolling out with an international trust. So I'm hoping to get it out like within the next month or two. But right now we're actually using it to transfer assets from Africa and Dubai and Mexico. So before we present it to the community, we're doing other, you know, other due diligence with it in those other countries. But it's also going to depend on on any rules that they have in your country as well. So whatever country you want. So we're going to provide you with an international trust that you can use, but you want to customize it for, you know, for Belize or for Mexico or for, you know, where you're going to be using it.
Perfect. I'm about to get my land out there too. Let's go.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Me too. I'm picking up land everywhere. So I'm going to Africa. I'm going to Tanzania October 9th to the 16th, and it's specifically for real estate, to scout out real estate. And then I'm going to Nigeria November 9th. And I'm going to be also looking at real estate there as well. So yeah.
Woo, cooking.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys enjoy that watch party. I love hearing it. Awesome. Awesome. And thank you for that good question. So next we have Nisi. Am I saying it right? Is it Nisi? Or is it Nicey? Nisi, Nicey. Do you have your hand raised? You want to come off mute? Let me see. Ask to unmute.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Is it Nisi or Nicey?
It's Nisi. I'm having a hard time with this
Uh-huh.
working it, but this information is great. You explain it perfectly. I've always heard about, the index life insurance, but didn't really get a good insight about what it really was. But my question was, I don't have any kids, so I'm not sure I was setting up a living estate trust, and I'm having trouble figuring out who will be my beneficiaries. So I had got word that I could use a DBA or an assumed name. Is there any truth to that?
No, I mean, I've never, so a DBA, I mean,
Doing business.
yeah, doing business as like, so you have to use an entity. So from what I know, a DBA is not an entity, but it's associated with an entity. So if it's associated with an entity like an LLC or a sole proprietor, which is, in the sense a person, then yes. But if not, then you just want to use the actual entity. So it could be a company, it could be another trust if you want to as well. So that's what I see a lot of other people do. They'll make one trust the beneficiary of another trust if they don't want to leave it to nobody or to family. But you just have to think about it too, because like if you have assets and you don't wake up tomorrow, where do you want it to go? You want it to just sit in another trust? No, it's going to end up, it's going to end up with the county anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And one more question I had was, you mentioned statutory trusts, and I was thinking, a lot of people say that you want the trust to be private. So, I guess since there's different kind of trusts, so you can have one that's statutory and one that's private, but does having an EIN for a trust make it statutory or public?
That's a good question. So you definitely don't want a statutory trust, okay? So, I do not encourage people to get statutory trust. I encourage them to get non-statutory trust because then they're not limited to whatever state that they establish it. So if you're using the domestic trust, then the non-statutory actually operates in the common law jurisdiction, and every single state in this nation has a common law legal system, so you can use it in all states and the territories. So with the EIN, the thing about that is, one, it is internal with the IRS, so it's not public records per se, right? So they're not going to publicly put out there the name of your trust and that you're the trustee, but you are putting on notice to the IRS, which is, the government, that the trust exists and that you are the trustee. Okay, so a lot of people choose not to do it that way. Your alternative is for you to apply for a 9(8) number, as a foreign entity. And so you can get the 9(8) number, which is private, and you don't have to let them know of your existence, but you're still going to be applying for a number for that specific trust, right? So it's not like, I would say it's not public in a sense that it's generating a public record, but it is going to be internal that the IRS knows. And then it actually pulls you into their jurisdiction, right? So you do have to file taxes for these entities. You got to file a 1041 for the business trust and the family trust. And even for, you know, and even if you get a 98 number, as long as you are generating US dollars, you have to file taxes.
Gotcha. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
You're so welcome, Queen. Thank you for asking those good questions. All right. Ms. Bay, I see your hand up.
Yeah, that was one of my questions too, because I have you guys was talking about Belize, and I have a 98 in Costa Rica and Cala something. But anyway, yeah, and I was and this is through my private trust. So this is what I faxed, and they received it today. So I
Okay,
don't know
congratulations.
I don't know what the outcome is, because the 98 will be a foreign, but it's also copyrighted at the same time. It's like protected, that still, and so it's, I don't know, because they got all my paperwork, they got everything
Yeah.
on me.
Yeah, you just gotta wait for them to either prove it or deny it. And
Right,
even if you get a
right,
denial, then you can reapply. So
right,
yeah.
right. All right,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the question I had. And have you all ever been to Costa Rica? Have you ever heard of
No,
Atlanta? No?
no, I haven't been.
I heard that.
I'm
I
going
hear
on a world tour though, you guys. I'm going, where am I going? So I'm supposed to go, I'm going to Jamaica. I'm going to Italy. I'm going to Tanzania, Nigeria, and Ghana. So those are, I already have, like, travel plans and stuff for those places. So
That's great. That's great. That's
yeah.
very, you
And but
young woman doing it. I'm
yeah, well,
proud of you. You doing it.
yeah. Last year I bought a condo in Dubai. So
What?
yeah, I'm excited. But
And
now
y'all not gonna roll with this lady? Y'all know y'all better roll with this lady.
yeah, the condo. So the condo is worth over $1 million, but I bought it pre-construction for 646. So I'm excited about it. It's going to be done in 3 years, and then it's actually going to be right next to the building. I don't remember the name of the building, but it's going to be the tallest building in the world. So right now it's the Burj
Wow.
Khalifa, and so now the Burj Khalifa is going to be second, and then this new building that they're building is going to be first, or
Wow.
the tallest. And so my condo is right next to it. So
That's nice.
I'm excited. But so I'm gonna do
That's all
Airbnb.
right.
I'm gonna do Airbnb, short-term rental, have the people. And so, like, you don't pay no income tax or anything like that. So that's why I decided to invest in Dubai. And I would recommend anybody and everybody invest in Dubai. It's really a good play to run if you
Yeah,
are
let's do a video.
yes. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ms. Bay, for being here. I absolutely adore you. So I'm going to wrap it up, you guys. It is 8:56. Okay. So thank you so much. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I forgot to put the link. So if anybody wants to put down a $200 deposit so they could secure the 20% off, and then you can pay the balance whenever you want. So if you want to pay the balance before, the next workshop or whenever you want to enroll, you can do that. So let me grab that link real quick. And then, like I said, if you guys have any questions, you can just email me, or you can call the number that you've seen on there. And then some people was asking about the replay. So the replay is going to be on YouTube because we're live on YouTube right now. So the replay is going to be on YouTube. So go ahead. The link is in there. So all you have to do, I'm going to drop the link right now for the YouTube. So I would appreciate it if you subscribed to the YouTube channel, you guys. There's a lot of information on there, more information than what I was able to go through in this little, hour and a half. So here is the link. So that's the link to enroll. That's the discount code Trust20. And that's also the link if you want to. Thank you, Aya. That's also the link for the deposit. Okay, so you see that there. Go ahead and save that because it's not going to be available once I shut down this Zoom. That's the link if you want to book an insurance call. And then that's the link to the actual YouTube channel so that you can watch the replay. Okay, so watch the replay, write down your questions, and then send me an email, or you can send my assistant an email, Aya. She's thebomb.com. So, yeah, and when you come into our program, I have a program director. She's not on the call right now, but her name is Dana Flores, and she holds you accountable. So she holds your hand through the whole process as well. So anyways, you guys, good night. Thank you so much for rocking with me for the last 2 hours. And I hope to see you guys in the workshop that's coming up. And I hope to help you throughout this whole journey. And just remember, you are the generational curse breaker in your family. And so now it's time for you to actually take action on the information that I told you guys today. You actually get these tools, which is the trust and the insurance policy, so that you could change the trajectory of your life, so that you could change the trajectory of your children's life, so that now you could raise them as trustees, right? This is what true generational wealth is. Yeah.
I just got to ask one more question.
Yeah.
Fidelity. Do I have to wait till all 3 trusts are done before I do the fidelity?
No, you just have to whichever one you have notarized, you can do it one at a time. So whichever one that is notarized, you can go ahead and open up that Fidelity account.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye. God
Bye.
bless.